beyond the scope of just the regular embroidery, just using the stitches and things like that, but doing multimedia type projects and things like that as well. And in today's class, we're going to use this to create a graphic from the embroidery, and I'm going to show you how to use that in graphic design as well. So we're going to do kind of a multimedia type scenario today, and I do thank you for joining me today. You should be able to hear my voice, and you should be able to see my screen as well. And if you cannot, you can dial the webinar support. Hi Donna, how are you? Welcome. And so when you think about creating graphics inside the Embroidery Studio, now you can create graphics. We know that we can create graphics from within CorelDraw, okay? And if you use Illustrator, of course, you can use Illustrator to do this as well. But today, actually, and for me, a lot of the designs that I create, if I do them, most of the time I'll do it from the embroidery mode because I'm just so used to doing it, okay? And you try each method, try creating in the CorelDraw, and try creating your graphics from here. Also, try all different methods to see which suits you better, actually, okay? Because one person may like doing it in CorelDraw, and the other person may enjoy doing it from the embroidery mode, and really doesn't matter, as long as the end product is professional looking, awesome product, okay? And so today we have a butterfly, and again, I just went online and went into the royalty-free clip art and chose this butterfly, okay? And I'm going to show you how to digitize a butterfly. And with the techniques that I'm showing you today, as I always tell you, digitizing is an opinion, okay? And everybody does it a little bit differently. And today I'm just going to show you another method that you can use to create a design, then a graphic from the design, and being able to use the multimedia to merge those images together. As always, right now we're not, this class is not about production in your shop today. This is a different type class today, where we're going in and the images, or the image that we're going to create today, have nothing to do with production, okay? And this means that we can do what we want to do with the design, because it's not going to be associated with the embroidery machine whatsoever in this particular design today. Okay, we're not worried about trims, we're not worried about massive thread changes and things like that, because we're using this in a graphic sense today, okay? And keep that in mind. And so at this particular point here with the design, and I shared with you before that I like to do a conversion, an automatic conversion, just to see what the software is going to do with the image. And I do this, though I've been digitizing for 35 years, no one is too good for the basics, because the basics will always remain the same, because you can build from the basics, okay? So right now, I'm going to just select this. I'm going to do a right click, and I'm going to drag this up here to do a quick clone of this. And I'm going to convert this to CorelDraw. Oops, that's not good. It's telling me that it's not there. Okay, so not sure I did an update this morning. So if that's not going to work, let's try a different method. We can select the image here. I'm going to click on the Instant Smart Design tool. And again, this is also in reference to sometimes when things don't work the way that you want it, that you don't want them to, you have to continue to move forward with it. This is the same scenario, even though I'm going to have to go in and probably do a edit or a repair of the CorelDraw. I still want to see what this looks like in stitches. So with this, I can go and I can choose my Smart Design as I select it there. And as I choose the Smart Design tool, and select this here, this is what this looks like. Okay, so I'm showing you also that you can convert here. I preferably do it from CorelDraw because the quality is better. But here, you know, as far as what the software does, again, this is not what we're going to use for our project, actually. This is just to show, you know, I've got my colors here that I can use with my design as well. So as far as that goes, this was successful. Okay, I have my colors here, and I'll just use the same colors here on my design on the bottom here that I have here up top. Okay, and so zoom in here, I'm going to click save here. Eventually, I'm going to remove this image here from the screen because I'm not going to need it. Okay, so one, the positive note with this, I was able to convert it to see what the system does on this side of the module. And two, I've got my colors that I can use. And with the colors, as I navigate here on the bottom, you see I've got my system set up here. These are default colors here. And I want to change these to Madeira colors to the closest match. So I'm going to navigate, I'm going to click my colorway editor as I left click here. It's going to bring up my colorways here. And I have my Madeira thread chart already selected. So I'm going to navigate here. I want to choose this option. Now, if you can watch the bottom of the screen here, you'll see the colors change once I choose all. Okay. Once I match all, it's going to match all these to the Madeira thread charts. And now when I navigate my mouse over this, you see in here now you see Madeira Poly Neon. Okay. So this is what I have. And I can navigate all the way to the end here. Here is a little X here that I can go in once I click this because I want to remove all the colors that I'm not using. So I'm going to click the X here by left clicking, and it eliminates most of the colors here. Now some of these will still be eliminated later, but here we have at least a starting point here. And I'm going to navigate back here also, and I'm going to get rid of that colorway editor. Okay, I'm going to click save here. So now, as we go in, I'm going to click on my artwork here. I'm going to press K to lock it on the screen, and I can see here my little lock tab so that this does not move while I'm digitizing it. And so now, as I'm looking at this, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to digitize this. Now, when you see areas like this with graphics, you know, you see these, I mean, there's no way that you can get that to do this exactly with stitches, okay? So we have to improvise, okay? And so as I zoom out of this, as you're looking at this, we can learn from what we see in objects like this. We can learn, one, how the system actually went in and created those items. And as you can see here, it definitely went in. It did put holes in the background here, which are too small. So, of course, I will digitize the black area first fully and then put the highlights on top of that, okay? And again, as I mentioned earlier, this has nothing to do with production today. We're digitizing a design, and we're going to use this as a backdrop, okay? So at this point here, as I'm looking at my design, I never just start digitizing. Okay, you have to look at it and you have to decide what you're going to do. It's like you're planning a trip, okay? And I'm planning a trip to the end of this design, okay? So, and when you're looking at this, you want to try to see how you want this to stitch out on your embroidery machine, okay? And so with this, even though we're not using it for production, you know, by digitizing it, we still have to go in and go through the reins of digitizing the different objects and things like that with the design. And just keep in mind that we're always learning every day. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. If you're not learning every day, you know, that's not a good thing, okay? And so right now, you look at the most dominant color in the design, and the most dominant color in the design is going to be the yellow color, kind of goldish color there. Okay, and you can see that there are several different, you know, options here for it. But you know, we could, if we do go in and use two, I won't use more than two colors with this because you see a darker hue here going on top of the lighter. And so again, that's up to the artist. It's this artist's decision what they're going to do with this, and everybody thinks differently. Okay. One of the first things that I'm going to look for here is symmetry. Do you see symmetry here? Okay. And in what way do you see symmetry here? We have one wing here, and these, they kind of look similar. Okay. What does that mean to the digitizer? It means that there's less work for me, because if I can duplicate it, then I'm only going to digitize one of these, and I'm just going to flip it over. Okay. So even though you have two wings, you could, digitize just one of these and flip it over, and that's going to save you amount of time. That's going to save you time as far as your digitizing goes. Okay. So I'm going to look at this here and see some colorization here. And so I'm going to go in, I'm going to choose my tatami stitch fill here with the complex fill. I'll navigate up top here to choose tatami. And I'm going to start digitizing this. So I'm start here now. These areas here, you decide, that's going to depend on how large this is going to be. And this is about, I think maybe 3.5 inches for the size here, but I can change that later. Okay. And so right now, I'm going to go in and decide if I want to do an effect for this. And I'll just go in, I'll start here. Just like this. I know my dark areas are going to be covering this up here, so I can go in. And if you see here on the outside here, we have the yellow here on the outside. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not. May just leave those off. But here, as I go through here, and of course I can't take the fill all the way out to the edge. That would be a disaster. Can't do that. So I have to go in as closely as I can to these particular areas that you see here. If I make a mistake, I can press my backspace key like this. And as I'm going here like this, getting back to my starting position here, I'll press enter. Okay. On my lower left corner, my prompt bar is asking me to enter point 1 on boundary 2. If you're not familiar with boundary 2 will always be a donut hole. Okay. And we don't have a donut hole because we're going to fill these up, this area here. And so I'm going to press enter again. And now it's asking me in my lower left corner of my prompt bar for my stitch angle. Okay. And the stitch angle that I'll use here for this, and I'm taking into account here, you have your running stitches here, or if it were large enough, it would be small satin stitches. But here, the way this runs, I definitely don't want to do my stitch angle in the same direction as these lines, because I don't want them to sink into the fabric, the stitches as it's going in. So it'll be a different stitch angle. So I'll use something like this. And it goes in, it fills that in. Okay. I definitely want to make sure, as I choose my reshape tool, I want to make sure that my exit point goes all the way to the top here, or all the way to the bottom, to get rid of that line in the fill. If you didn't see that, I'm going to undo this. See this line? I don't want to see that. And it's because the exit point is in the center of the fill. And if you're not familiar with why this happens, you're controlling the embroidery machine. And if this is going to be your starting position here, so the needle goes down when you press start, the needle goes here and it does 2 slow stitches, and then your machine speeds up. These are your tie-in stitches. They have to tie in because we don't want anything to unravel. And if you've ever seen a design unravel, it's like a nightmare on Embroidery Street. Okay, so here, the exit point here, watch what happens when I do the stitch player with this. And we'll start here with this one. I want you to watch this, watch how this feels. And this is going to show you why the exit point is in the wrong location. And I will have to change this underlay stitch too. So here, as it goes in and does the cover stitch here, watch what happens around here where that exit point is. And it's going to show you exactly why you have the line in the fill sometimes. And if you want to get rid of it, you'd have to move the exit point to the polar opposite end in either direction, right about there. You see what just happened? That's why we have the line in the fill here. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go to my reshape tool. I want to make sure it's at the bottom of wherever the stitch angle is here to get rid of that fill area. Okay, and I'm going to click save. There. All right, I'm going to press S to hide my stitches. So as I'm looking at this, so I've got areas here that I can actually go in and I can put these in here also. But you want to think about it this way also. With these areas here, and because they're not connected together in any way, they're separated. Some of them are close, but some of them are not. You always use the dominant color here, which is black first, and you stitch these colors on top. Okay, it makes more sense logically for the embroidery machine for you to do that in situations like this. Same as the white dots here. Okay, this is not a huge, like a jacket back design, so we're not putting holes in this fill. Okay, so we fill it in completely and we add the highlights on top. Okay, and that's the way that we do the designs when it comes to something like this at this particular size here. Now, looking at this, if I select this here and I choose the lighter color fill for that one, I have areas in here also that are, if I choose to go in at this point, I can go in and I can do a darker color like you see here. I mean, you can do it or not. It all depends on, how you're feeling, whether you feel like doing it or not. And so here, when I choose my tatami stitch now again here, I'll choose a darker color. And here, when I go in, I can go in just like this. Have these areas like this. And all of this is digitizer's discretion. Like this, and let's go back here like this. I'll press enter. Enter again. My stitch angle needs to be the same as a stitch angle on the bottom. Okay, so when I select the one on the bottom and I choose 14, okay, I could either click this on top and change this to 14, like this, or I could click this on the bottom, I can right click it, I can make those properties current, and then click the object on top and right click and apply current properties. Does the same thing. Okay, and something else here also, another option that I have with this is on the bottom fill under my underlays, I'll use my edge run for tatami, and then you'll need the tatami underlay. Okay, but for the one on the top, there's no underlays for this one. Okay, no underlays. And we're going to open up the stitch density for this also by navigating to fills, and we're going to open up the stitch density here. We'll make this 1.0. It's going to open it up just like this. Okay, and what I want to do here also is I want to make sure that there are no running stitches going underneath this. So I'm going to, with this selected, I'll navigate to my reshape tool here. Exit point is at the end here, starting point up top here. Kind of making sure that there's no underlying stitches that are going underneath this that'll show up on the print. Okay, and so this is something that you could do with this one. I can use one. If I use two, it's just going to open it up more like this. Okay, I'm going to undo this, and I'm also going to extend the stitch length for this to 4.0. Okay. I'm going to click Save, and it's just going to give me just a view here for this that I can use. Now, if I wanted to, I could just take this away and just use a different, just use one color. That's totally up to you in how you want to approach this. Another way that I can do this is I can select this here. I can delete this. Now, if you're running the EmbroideryStudio, the designing package, you have an option that you can select this and you can use your color blending tool. Here's your color blending tool here. I can choose to go in for the bottom layer here is number 7. And I want to do a complete fill on the bottom, so I'll use the constant profile. Okay. So this is going to be with your regular densities and things like that. Then for color number 2, that's going to be on top, color number 9. See, this is going to be at 2 millimeters. Okay, I can change this now or I can change this later. And here I can use this method. These are your profiles, and you can change those also in the properties as well, which I'll show you in a minute. Once I click OK here, it goes in, and here are my 2 colors here. Now at this point here, here's your accordion spacing. If I click this, does the accordion. I can change that I can change my profile. To any of these, and they're opposite of one another. Okay, and this is just something else that I could do for this to go in. I could also go in and I can open up right now that stitch density for the cover stitch here is at 3 in the minimum. So if I do 0.5 here, you can see some of the differences here of the fills and how that works inside the software as I go in and select the different profiles. Some of them are going to work. Some of them will look nicer than the others. And maybe I want to use this to keep this on top like that. Okay, and so I can always adjust this to make this wider, like this. That's at your fingertips. Okay, I'm going to click Save. Now I'll press S here to hide the colors, the fill here, and I'll go in and I'll begin to do the black. Now the black areas here, for these, I'll go in and I will use a tatami stitch for those. Okay, and so for these, I'll go in and I'll start. Let me do this first. Here, I want to go in and add a column B stitch to this as color number 9. So I'll start here and I'll stop here. I'm going to press Enter, and then I'll do side B. I'm going to press Enter. That's what that looks like. Okay, because I kind of like this, the way that this looks here. It's going to give me another kind of a nice effect with this as well. So now, with the black fill, when I do this, I've got my running stitches here that are going to go, and I'll decide what type of running stitch to use for these. And for these, I think at the size that it is here, I think I'll use a triple stitch for these. So I will navigate, click on my little arrow here and do the triple stitch. And I'll start going in and digitizing these outlines. Now here, and I'll just follow the outlines like this. Right clicking to do the curves like that, press Enter. And when I select this here, I want to make sure that I have the right color, and I want to use a different color so that I can see this a lot clearer. So I'll choose the plus sign here to add. Yep. I can see that better. And as I continue with this, all I'm doing is going in and adding my lines like this. And when you're running the designing program here, I'm going to use the branching tool. If I were using the decorating with this, I would have to go in and digitize these manually, which is fine too. Here, as I click here, let's enter. Going in and just adding these lines. And the main thing always about when you're branching anything is how close the objects are together. They need to be touching each other or in very close proximity. Here, as I go in, stop here. Here, as I go down here, if I want to see it, I can press S here. It shows me what it looks like. Show me where I am with this also. And here, as I go in, now with this, and as we're creating this, inside the EmbroideryStudio, now this particular class section here, and the next class that we'll do, and we'll be doing several of these in this series, and we'll be going in and doing multiple type projects of how to create the graphics here. And this is just one method of going in and creating the graphics inside the EmbroideryStudio in the embroidery mode. Now here also, I've got, and I want to go in and I want to add my satin stitches here for this. And I'm just going to go in, I'll choose my column B stitch. And if I'm starting that here, I'll start it here like this. Press enter. Oops, hold on. Backspace. Let me save this first. Grab the wrong item. Here, just like this. So I press enter and I go in and do the second one like this as I go in. I'm gonna press enter. And this is what that looks like. Here, because it's a satin stitch, I can, however, go in and I can choose the accordion spacing with this. With the accordion, I can make a minimum and for the maximum here, I can make this smaller. I can take it to 1 like this. I can select this one, the first one, and I can move this. Now, as I go in here with this, I can make those a little bit tighter. So as it goes in to this fill area here, I'm going to press D to hide the graphics so that I can only see the outlines like this. So I can merge those together like that. And remember, once this is complete, it's going to be this color. Okay. All right. I'm going to click save. I'm going to press D also to bring back my my artwork here. So right now I'm going to choose the complex fill. Start that here. And here's where when you go in to something like this, as you're working with the designs, you can get creative. Because right now you got the dots and everything here that we're looking at here also, but we can go in and we can adjust those here like this. Doesn't have to look exactly like the artwork does here. Now here, go across the top like this. This is when it'd be great to have a pen tool, a pen tablet to do something like this. It makes you faster because it's like drawing with a pen. I have one. I don't use it as often as I should, but they're really great. Here. Going around the outline here like this. So now as I come into the end here, I'll press enter. My entry point. Stitch angle here, and as I get to the other side of this, I'll go back here to my column B stitch. Start here, press enter here, and finish this off. Anything that you go in and do at this point here is subject to edit at a future time. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so right now I've got the outside here done. I'm going to press S. Now at this point here, I decide, if I'm going to go in and do the little edges here like this, and it's just as simple as going in and choosing that column B stitch. Now, as I press the #1 key, and I look at this, and I change my mind. I don't like that. Okay. With everything else, when you have these areas like this on the inside that look like little dots and things like that, you could go in with these and you could use a single run stitch for things like this. And with a single run stitch, of course, I'm going to run this underneath the satin stitches here. I can do a stitch like this. I can just go in and do something like this. Go underneath like this. Again, a pen tablet works better with things like this. But here, as I'm going underneath, if I do want to add these little things like this, oops. And I'm moving pretty quickly today with this, so because of our little time constraint, but here, just giving you an idea on how you can actually go in. And this is a single. I'm going to click save first. All right, I'm going to go back and try this again. I clicked the wrong button here somewhere, guys. My fingers are moving too fast. This is a single stitch. As we go underneath, and we'll see how this looks on the other side. But here, with this, let me slow my fingers down here also. You just want just the appearance of what looks like that there's something there. And because it is a single, so that's what it looks like there. I'm going to click save. Next, we have our circles. Here, I'll just choose my ellipse tool and choose color number 12 here, and just do that a satin. Right click and drag. Right click and drag here. Right click and drag. Some of these are smaller. I can navigate down and make this maybe 95. With these, and as I'm continuing with this, these are going on top. These are little highlights. We have two smaller ones here. They don't have to be as small as the ones that are already there. And here, as I press S, this is what that looks like. I'm going to click Save. Okay. So now, at this particular point here, I have the ability to go in and I could select my fill area here, and I can choose to have jagged edges on this by going in and doing it that way. And again, it's another option that I have for this. And just leave it like it is. Now, for the stitches that I did earlier, for the triple stitches, I'm going to select those as I scroll up my color object list here as I select these, and I'm going to choose them all the way down to the last one here, and I'm going to branch these. Again, when you're running the designing package, you have the option to go in and choose your branching tool. The branching tools allows you to go in and select a starting position and an exit point, and it goes through. It changes those items from multiple objects like you saw earlier to one object like you see here, and I'm going to click Save. Okay. So right now, if I go in and once I select that here, let me scroll up top here like this. And if I want to see what that looks like, I can click on color number 13. And I can change that to see what this looks like here actually. Now, when you're using blending tools, which we're not using the blending tools to the point to where it's we're doing some serious detail that'll take much longer time than we have available. Okay. But here with this, just a quick way of going in here, I'm gonna use this here. We have our running stitches underneath. Then we're gonna stitch this, move this underneath so it is covered by your top layers of stitches here. I'm gonna click Save. What I can do here also, if I want to go in and make this blend a little bit more, I can actually go in and I can choose my column B stitch with this. And I can do something like this. As I select this and as I go in here and I'm digitizing this, I can go in and I can adjust and change the color on this. Change this to color number 8. And I can use the accordion spacing with this. I want to make sure that there's no underlay stitches with this also. So I'll go to my effects and underlays and make sure that there's no underlay stitches with this. Okay. Once I go back to effects here, I can go in and choose a .0. Make sure that the starting point and exit points were in 2 different locations. and I can open this density up here to where now, as I go in there, I can have what appears like a more of a blending effect to this. And here, I can go in and I can run this either way here like this, trying to figure out which one's going to look much nicer. It's totally up to you how you do this and how you're blending. Again, it requires a bit more time and patience when you go in and you're doing it that way. And so you want to keep that in mind as well. We'll leave it there. I'm going to click save here. So next on our list here is right now. Now, what we have here also is I can go in, I'm going to select this fill. Right now, you see this fill here is a regular complex fill with just a single angle. If I navigate up top here and I change that to the tatami stitch, what you saw earlier was the satin version of it. You can see the difference between the way that looked here, and to me, it looks a lot nicer, flatter. Okay, and so with this, again, your options that you have, and you're going in and doing things like this, you have many different options that you can use for going in and doing things like this. And at this particular point here, if I want to go in and select this, and I want the stitches to turn here on the bottom, I can choose the stitch angle tool, and I can go in and I could rotate this. It's still going to be a tatami stitch. Okay. You got to cross it over there also as I press enter. With this, it goes in and it does the stitch angles here that I applied. And this is what it looks like. Okay, so now these stitches are turning on the bottom here, and they can actually turn into the satin stitch that we did earlier actually. And it looks a lot, it looks like it belongs there. Okay, again, these are just different ideas that you have, that I have that you can do when you're doing things like this. As I click save. All right, so next, I'm gonna go in and we're gonna do the, as I press S here, I'm gonna do the antenna. Let's go here. And I'll make this color here so that we can see it. And I want to do a back stitch on this also because I want it to run twice, as you can see here. And then I will select these. Let me run to the next one first this way. I can now select both of these. Do a Control D to duplicate this and flip this horizontally like this. Now, and this is one way of doing this actually, and I've gone in and I've got 4 of these. Another way to do this, I could have just done 2 like this, and I could have just selected both of them. And let me do this here also. This here, press enter, and I'm going to put one here also like this. So I have 4 of those now, and I'm just going to select those like this. I'm going to branch these as I choose my branching tool. I want to start here, and I'm going to exit here, and I'm going to click save. Okay. So next I'm going to go in and I'm just going to do a to the body type there. And so I'll go in and I'll use the let's see, I'll use the so I'm thinking here, guys. I'll use this one. Go in. And stitch this. Looks like this. I'll do a Control D and use my arrow key at 9 o'clock to move this over like this. Okay. And now I can go in here to my column B stitch. I'll start here. I'll press enter and I'll do side 2 like this. As I press enter, this is what that looks like. I'll press S again here and I'll go back here and I'll start again. Side A, press enter, and then side B. This is what that looks like. I'll press save. Okay. Anything else that I want to add to this now? I mean, I could, at this point here, I can do this now or I can do this later. Here, I can go in, I'll choose my ellipse tool and click here, spread it, press enter and make it the height that I want it here like this. And this is a satin stitch here. And this is a yellow fill. We'll make it number 9. This stitch angle, I want to make sure that it is going in that direction. Your starting point and your exit point here, like this. Control D, use my arrow key at 6 o'clock. Control D again to duplicate, arrow key at 6 o'clock, like this. And I'm going to click save. For my columns here and here, don't need a zigzag for that here. So with these areas here, I'm going to choose color number 8 and I'm going to click save. Okay, so now at this particular point here, as I'm looking at what I have on the screen already, I'm going to select these items and I'm going to group those together so I can keep those the way that I want them here. And so everything else, with the wings on the other side and everything like that, as I scroll up, I'm going to select this object here and go all the way back up to the top. And I'll press my shift key and select this one, which selects all of the wing area here, like we've digitized. Control D to duplicate. And up top here, I'm going to choose my mirror horizontally, and I'll use my arrow key at 9 o'clock. This is so easy. As I'm looking at that here, I just want to make sure that I got everything, and I want to make sure that everything is going to be hidden underneath our little guy here. Now, because I went in earlier and I grouped those items together, now all I've got to do is go in and select those. And these. And I'm going to use the sequence tool to send those to the end of the design. Okay. And so everything else, as far as the way that everything else had stitched, just want to make sure that everything is okay, making sure that everything is being centered underneath here as well. Okay. And making sure that's going to happen is I'm going to select this. I'm going to choose my polygon select. Just want to grab that wing and use my arrow key at 3 o'clock to move that underneath like that, making sure everything is in order. Okay. And what I want to add here also to this guy here and to this one, I want to add an outline. So I'm going to go to the simple offset tool and do a run. Like this. And what I want to do here also is I'm going to do these one at a time. I'll select this one first. And I'm going to use my knife tool under my edit toolbar. I'm going to cut this right there, and I'm going to cut this one. So these smaller areas here I don't need. Here. Or you know what? It's the same. So why don't I just select both of these, do a Control D, and just flip it. You have so many different options that you can choose inside the software to do so many different things with it. And it's just absolutely, it's amazing. Here, as I move this here, and it's going to slide it right into place there. Okay. And for this, before this guy stitches here, I'm going to go in. So this is going to stitch before 449. Okay. So as I'm looking at this, as I select these two here, I'm going to right click, sequence by number before, I think it was what, 449. And as I click OK, it moves in position here. And now I can go in and change the color to color number 8, like that. Same thing here on the other side with these two. As I select that, and I'll change my color here. And this is going to stitch before the satin for this one. Can drag this up there. And I can see here also that this one, I forgot to grab this little guy here. It's okay. Control D, flip it, and just use your arrow key. Oops. Apparently that was grouped also, but it's okay. I'm gonna back this up. When I selected this, this was actually included with that. I'm gonna break it apart. I just need this. Control D, I'm gonna flip this horizontally and move this over like this. Again, this is about creating, a graphic for this particular image here. It's not about as far as production goes. And so with that here, I click this one. And this one. There we go. And I'm going to click save. So now with our design, as of course you can see the difference between the both of these and how they look, and I can continue editing this to make it look more real. But again, based on our time, I'm going to click save here. And I'm going to select this here. We don't need this one anymore. Okay, as I press 0 here, here's our design here that we're going to use for graphic purposes this time. Again, not for production, but for or at least not for embroidery production. So now at this point, our design is finished as I click save here. And at this point here also, I'm just going to navigate up top here. I'm going to right click the graphic. I'm going to unlock it. And I'm going to delete it. When I send you the design for today's session, actually, I'll leave the graphic in there for you that you can delete it if you like. Actually, I just removed it from this here because I want to go in and do something else with this. At this point now, I want to go in. I want to save this as a capture virtual decoration bitmap. Okay, and by me choosing this virtual decoration bitmap, it's going to allow me to do something like this. I'm going to save this. I'll choose capture. I'm saving this at the highest resolution that I can save it to at 600. The higher the number, the better the visual optically for you actually. So I'll click OK. And I'm going to save this here to my file. And so now I've digitized the embroidery. Okay, I've saved this to a graphic that we're gonna do something like this now. So I'm gonna go to CorelDraw, and look, we have an image. Okay. So we have an image here on the screen, and what we're gonna do once that embroidery is done, once that's saved as a PNG file, we're gonna go here and we're gonna import this file. Oops. Select here. Digitizing. Oh, you know what? Okay. Online graphics projects. I'm sorry, guys. Let me get back here. I saved it to me. Capture virtual design bitmap. I think let's do it this way. It's a PNG file. So here's our image, and I just needed to. I wanted to see a visual of it, and that's why I went back in and I saved it as the PNG to the desktop because I wanted to actually see it. So now I'm going to select this. I'm going to choose import, and I'm going to left click here and look at that. So here's our butterfly design. Okay, and with this design, I can move this into place here. What I can do for this also, once in CorelDraw, I have the ability, and I'm going to do this also. I'm going to right click this and I'm going to copy that right there. Okay. Now for this guy here, I want to select this one. Now I want to do a shadow. Okay. So in CorelDraw, you have a tool that's called, you have a transparency tool. You also have one that's called drop shadow. It's right here. It's the drop shadow tool. I'm going to choose drop shadow. And I want to do a shadow of this is I'm going to select this area here like this. And I can move this anywhere I want to do a drop shadow of our butterfly. And as you can see here also, as I select this one, I want to change the size of this one. Again, we have the PNG file. And here in the background, as you can see, these are faded, kind of a blur in the background purposely. And so what we can do for this is I can take this, move this here in the background. I could rotate this like this. And here we can use the transparency tool. And in the transparency tool, I'm going to draw from the lower left corner here of this. And I want to use the uniform transparency. Okay. And with that uniform transparency, I can go in, I can make it disappear more. But I just want to do a little fade in the background here for this one. And so with that, and with this, you're able to go in and create these cool effects inside your software that have, like I mentioned, doesn't have anything to do with stitching it out on the embroidery machine, but just being able to go in and do something like this with it. Okay. And so, and it's just awesome, the amount of things that you can do in the software now. And as it continues to develop, this is what we have here. This is going to complete our class today. And do I have any questions? Yes, Brenda, this is way cool. and you know what? And the cool thing about this too, guys, is you can print this on canvas. If you have a direct to garment printer, you can print this on canvas. I mean, it looks absolutely fantastic on canvas. And so you could do these things, and you can frame them. I mean, and this is just, or if you're going to print these on a T-shirt or something like that, and you're just giving yourself just more options for your customers, that you can do things like this inside your software, which is absolutely incredible. And I have questions. Stephen has a question: would it be possible to include the initial EMB so that one could follow along with you step by step when you send the recording and files for future webinars, like you're doing with this one? Yeah, sure. I'll send the when I send the I'll send the initial EMB with this also, and it's no problem at all. Gina's question. Gina, thank you for your kind words, Jeannie. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Elena has a question. And yes, Elena, I will. Yeah, I will put together some more classes on CorelDraw, using CorelDraw and in relation to the EmbroideryStudio. I will definitely do that. No problem at all. Sure, there's a question. Yes, I think I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the Brother Scan and Cut, but if it's anything in relation to doing direct to garment printing or something like that, oh yeah, you can really knock it out of the ballpark. I mean, it's just it's just incredible, what you can do with it actually, and it looks like embroidery. The butterflies look like embroidery. If you get right up on it, some people who are not familiar with embroidery, they'll think it's real if they're looking at it from a distance, because of that 3D and being able to save it as that PNG file for that multi-decoration. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. It blows me away every time. And Brenda's question: could you go over how to get into the picture again? As far as the importing in the embroidered, the PNG files, sure. Now with this, so all we did is we went in, I had this background set up, so you could, if you have a picture, if you took a picture with your camera, you can load that up here also, just to have your background, your wallpaper here. And all I did was I went in and copy this here, and I'm just going to move this over. And fit. So all I did with the background already on screen, once you go into your EmbroideryStudio, okay, and once you have the, this does not work well for DST files. This is more, it's going to be more acceptable if you're using the EMB files. Okay, now here with this, once the file is digitized, the file has to be converted to a PNG for multi-decoration. So here, when I go to File and I choose, when I choose Capture Virtual Decoration, this is what transformed this file into a PNG document. Okay, and once that PNG document is created, then once you save that document, you're just going to go to CorelDraw or whatever software that you're running. And at this point now, with the picture on the screen, I'm able to go in to File and I can import in that graphic. Okay, and as I go in now, this is a PNG file here. This is not any EMB file. This is a graphic PNG file that comes in, and it doesn't have all the white space around it. And so you select that and you just choose import, and once you bring that in, you left click and it shows up on your screen there. And being in a PNG file, it looks real. It's actually really, it's absolutely amazing. If I sound excited about this, I can't help myself. But here, and it has no white space around it, and you can move this anywhere. Okay, and it looks real when you place that in there. And you have the option also in CorelDraw to do your drop shadow. Here's your drop shadow tool here, and you click on that item and you can do a drop shadow with it like this. I can take this and move this down over here, do that drop shadow with it, and it just gives it a different effect actually. And it just makes it come alive on the actual pictures, what it does. And I'm always, even every time I do it, I'm amazed by what it can do actually. And remember, I started doing this in 1986 when there was none of this automation software. So I'm excited as what this is, how this works. And see here. Let's see, Shirley and Brenda. Yeah, Brenda. It's really amazing. It blows me away every time I do it. It blows me away how you can actually go in and do this and import pictures and things like that. Helena, is it possible to prepare? Helena asked, is it possible to prepare that way embroidered simulation for a heat press? For a heat press, I'm sure you could actually, if you're using a heat press machine. Yeah, I'm sure you should be able to do this, because once you export that PNG file out, you should have, or any other graphic format that you're using for that, you should be able to do that. And so, Helena, now if you're using this for, if your heat press, if that works like a direct to garment printer, you should be able to do this because I know that it works perfect with the direct to garment printer. And if the heat press works the same way, you should be able to do it. I think you should be able to do it if it works the same way. No worries, my pleasure. And Stephen has a question. I got an email about how ePort 4.5 now supports more recent versions of Corel. Are those subscription only? Do they get updates? With those, you could use Corel 19, Corel 2020 with our software now, and that's going to be if you purchase your own license. The 2019 or the 2020 won't be available with Wilcom until I think our version 5.0 comes out. Okay, because they're usually a year, 2 years ahead of us. So yeah, so you can, it does support those particular new versions now inside our software. Brenda asked, how about sublimation? With the sublimation, I'm thinking here, it's been a minute since I've done any sublimation, but if you have a graphic, if I remember the way, if it works, the way that I'm thinking here, if you can use a graphic, you'd have to I'll have to check with that, Brenda, because I'm not sure for the sublimation if it works the same way. My mind is somewhere else right now. It's hard to concentrate on remembering how the sublimation works. I know that you need a special fabric for the sublimation, and if you're creating a graphic, I'm not sure if you need a print before you actually do that. I'm not sure. But I know for a fact for the direct-to-garment printer, it works perfectly for the direct-to-garment printer. Okay, and I have to do some research on that. And I remember years ago using those actually, but yeah, I'll have to do some research on it actually. Shoot me an email. And guys, if you have any anything that you want me to teach, anything that you want me to teach for a class session, please send me an email to support@wilcomamerica.com. Attention, James. It goes directly to my queue. I'll be glad to look at those. And you can visit us also at www.wilcomamerica.com for information on, thank you for your kind words, Brenda, for training, for updates, computer specs, which if you're going to purchase a new computer, you'll need to know to make and want to make sure that it's got enough memory and stuff on it for the software. You can go to, again, www.wilcomamerica.com. You go to support, and you'll choose computer specs and get that information. Okay. And guys, I thank you so much for your time today and your patience. I will see you tomorrow, okay, in our next session. And thank you so much for your patience again, for your time today. You guys have a great evening. I'll get this recording to you either late this evening or in the morning. And thank you so much for your time today. And as always, happy digitizing.